Greg Palast, many of you know, needs no introduction. He gave me this, which I really want to read because it was pretty great. Katherine Harris, no relation to Bev Harris. Called him.
Jim Wasserman Schultz is no relation.
To you, right. We're good, no Florida here. Katherine Harris calls Greg twisted and maniacal. Did you say takes one to know one? In Britain, he is, of course, considered the most important investigative reporter of our time. He's worked for BBC Television and The Guardian, such a great newspaper, wish we had one. He's now reporting for Rolling Stone magazine, completing a film about boat thieves and billionaires based on his New York Times bestsellers, 2 books, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy and Billionaires and Ballot Bandits. And he's going to cross-check what we just said, but hint, hint. All right, Greg Palast.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
All right. That's important. Thank you, Mimi. Wow, it was a very distinguished group. So, by the way, I want to add one other name that hasn't been mentioned. The great journalist Ed Rampell is here.
Yes.
My associate, Risley, could you stand up? Risley works with the Palast Investigative Fund. Okay, yes, I'll be closer to this microphone. Now, I'd like to give you good news, but instead I'm going to report the news, okay? Which is something that doesn't often happen. And I got to tell you, I'm not here because I'm for Bernie or Ernie or anyone. I am here. I am a reporter with Rolling Stone now, investigating what's going on with this election and your vote. And what really piqued my interest is something that a guy named Donald Trump, who's running for president, said in January. He said there are people voting many, many times. Okay? Which people? Now, if you know a guy named Dick Morris, who used to be the senior counsel to Bill Clinton until he got caught with calling the White House while a hooker sucked on his toes. And he said that there are 1 million Democrats who voted twice in the last election for president. That's how Obama got elected. Now, that was worth to me investigating who's making these claims. And here's what's interesting, is that, okay, according to 29 state officials, they have developed a program called interstate cross-check. So they know if someone's voting in 2 different states at the same time. Okay? And they have found these illegal voters. And you know how many they have found? 7.2 million voters, according to the GOP voting officials, have voted twice. Now, they are carefully going through the program to eliminate, by November, we expect to see, well, let's see, Virginia's already removed 41,000 people, the swing state of Virginia, before the Democrats took over that office. Swing state of Virginia is 41,000, 12% of their list. Based on the Virginia numbers, at least 1 million people will have lost their right to vote by November. How do I know this?
Wow.
This is what I've been investigating for almost 2 decades. Okay. Now, are people voting twice? Well, let's see. Maybe Mr. Trump is not insane. Maybe he's uncovered something extraordinary. But somehow this smells a lot like Katherine Harris returned. See, back in 2000, I saw that black people were having trouble voting in Florida. And I thought, in my conspiracy nut head, I'm called a conspiracy nut by the conspirators, in my head that maybe there was a computer program erasing black names off the Florida voter rolls. And then I found the computer program by Katherine Harris. And this is just a few names from it. I mean, you could go down the list. Like, this was what she found was that there were felons, criminals, people with felony convictions not allowed to vote in Florida, that tens of thousands are on the voter rolls like this one. I just literally grabbed this a minute ago. Robert Moore was convicted of a crime in 1964. And because Robert Moore committed a crime, Bobby Moore lost his vote, or I should say her vote. It's Bobby Jean Moore. Because Robert Moore lost his vote, Bobby Jean Moore in Florida committed a felony crime. Bobby Jean Moore lost her vote. Went through the list. There were 56,000. One thing I do know about this, right next to Bobby Jean Moore's name, it says BLA for black. And almost every name on that list had BLA. 56,000 people lost their vote, almost all of them BLA. And exactly this many, zero, none, not one, was an illegal voter. Not one. Joan Secker did a great film on this. Grab it. So now I smell this same thing, and sure enough, I was denied the list. They said it's confidential. 7.2 million people are committing a crime. Well, I can't get the list because it's a criminal investigation. So I can't get the names of these 7.2 million suspects.
Wow.
But I'm an investigative reporter, so I got the list. Not all, about 2 million names. And so here's the people who are voting twice. Okay, and this is literally, I'm just literally reading you random. I'm telling you it's random. Okay. Apparently the crime spree is headed by a guy named Michael Jackson. And so in Georgia, Michael Jerome Jackson voted, and then he voted again, Michael Jackson. In Virginia, Michael Wayne Jackson voted in Virginia. That's the same voter. Michael Leonard Jackson of Georgia was supposed to vote it again as Michael Page Jackson. Now, you don't think possibly that it's just that there's a common name, Michael Jackson. No. So the middle names don't match in 2 million cases, 2 million. The junior, senior, father and son are locked in together, are tagged as the same person. And in fact, though, I did get one confessed guy, Willie Mae Nelson, who's well, it's actually not a woman. It turns out to be a singer named Willie Nelson, but he has pigtails, and he votes as not only is Willie Mae Nelson, but Willie H. Nelson. I kid you not, he's on the list. But what's unusual about Willie Mae / Willie H. Nelson on the list is that he's not BLA. Now, they don't tell you the name. Since the end of the Voting Rights Act, we can't get the designation of the race. How convenient. But one nice thing is that the Census the Census Bureau gives us the racial breakdown of every last name in America. And this list, ran it through the computer, and this is the 6th Jim Crow. We expect 1 million voters, almost all of them voters of color, to lose their vote in 29 Republican-controlled states before the November election. We're going to try to bust open this story. Please join me. If you have a way to help us get making a full-length film besides my writings, go to Chris Lee. Give him your name. If you want to help out. By the way, we got a matching grant from the Park Foundation to help us match. And we are also putting out a podcast on the Pacifica Radio Network. You can go to my website, gregpalast.com. If you want more information on this, go to gregpalast.com. Sign up, obviously, for free for our weekly or so missives on the investigations as I'm covering them. The important thing is, you're going to hear about how votes get flipped. Okay, Harvey and Bob have written an astonishing book, Strip and Flip. I'm talking about the strip. What this means, there's an awful lot of African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Asian Americans especially, who will not have their votes flipped because they will be stripped of their right to vote before they even get there. And that's one thing we must not forget. Jim Crow has returned. With the end of the Voting Rights Act, this is possible, this is happening, And this is the new Jim Crow. Go to gregpalast.com and thank you so much for paying attention. We're not done. We're not done. Meet me at gregpalast.com. We're not done. And thank you I'd like to thank all the other people on this list who've all given me tremendous information.
And of course, the kind of cross-check is made possible by digitized voter rolls. At least supposedly we can check to see if our registration is stripped, because presumably our names on the registration lists we can see and check. Remember, in all that you are to hear, they are baldly doing that anyway. Now, when it comes to voting, we can never account for our votes, because our votes and ballots cannot account back to us. We have a secret ballot in the United States, and we have it for a reason. I did have a French guy call me up who was trying to ideate about the LA voting system. He said, they said I should speak to you about how important you think it is to have an anonymous vote still in the United States. Is it so important still if people know how you vote? I went, yeah.